All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Auburn School Committee. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll start down here on my right with introductions.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Quinn Gormley, Ward 4.
Corin McGuigan, Ward 1. Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Pamela Albert, at large.
Sue Doris, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier, Ward 3.
Jay Rich, at large.
Adam Platt, City Council Representative.
Calvin Vincent, Student Representative.
Connor Dufour, Student Representative.
Amanda Kuchar, Business Manager.
Scott Anier, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to start tonight with the approval of our consent agenda, which includes the approval of tonight's agenda, as well as the approval of the minutes of the March 12th, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pam? Quinn, second. All those in favor? Motion carries. It does not look like we have anyone here for public participation. So we will move on to our presentation tonight of the Auburn School Department operating budget for 2025-26.
Thank you very much. And tonight we are starting with Cost Center 4. I'd like to ask Todd Simpson to come up, and he will be reviewing with you our athletics budget.
Thank you. Some more good news from the winter athletic season. I'd like to brag about our unified basketball team. They finished their season on Monday, and they completed the season undefeated. So it was another success for our unified kiddos. And before I get started, I just would like to thank Stephanie Weber. Technology, I'm forever learning. I'm a lifelong learner with technology, but Stephanie was able to help me with some of these, getting the graphs and slides where they need to go. So in your packet, I think most of you are familiar with the cost per pupil. This is something that most people find fairly beneficial when you start looking at all of the programming that we offer at the high school and where we break down specifically per sport and then the number of athletes. It's a pretty good snapshot of where we are with each of our programs. Couple pieces of notes for you to consider with that. We're able to give you our current numbers for athletes for the fall and the winter. The spring numbers are obviously from last school year, so those are as up to date as we can find those for you. The stipend piece, we've added 3% for the next school year in anticipation of that contract, and then everything else is kind of broken down with that projected budget. Athletic trainer piece, and we continue to grapple with trying to find an athletic trainer on a regular basis in that contract. And that final number down there is at 62, and that's kind of a best guess at this point with Amanda and I kind of moving forward. The budget details, and I can run through these. The athletic officials, basically these are set by the Maine Principals Association. They negotiate the contract with all of the officials groups, whether they're soccer, football, as they go down the list. But this account not only is the men and women in stripes and that are working the games out on the fields, in the courts, it's also all of the scorekeepers. We're required to have adult scorekeepers, whether it's in the hockey score booth or at the basketball court or running the computer system at a swim meet. So those are all of the fees that are needed to run a varsity and JV competition. The one note in there that you'll see is The wrestling program, which is one of our most successful programs, is at the end of its 2-year probationary program, and all of those numbers are included here in the budget for the 25-26.
It should say 25, 26.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do apologize. This screen, to try to get this this spreadsheet onto one screen is fairly difficult, and that was not updated. That should read 25, 26.
Okay.
But that spreadsheet is accurate with those numbers. Other areas of note for you, just the professional service, the operation of the athletic department, the scheduling software that is required that we work through with the Maine Principals Association, that comes at a cost. The management software that we use to register our kiddos, used to be called Family ID, now called Arbiter, that is in there as well. And as well, the few rentals of incidentals such as the porta potties, realizing that our tennis courts, as new and as grand as they're going to be, it's going to be a long hike for someone to get back up to the high school in the middle of a match. So just minor things like that are going to be included. Police coverage at athletic events for our larger ones where we have, I don't even want to guess how many people were at the Yale Lewiston.
We're not going to talk about that.
There were a lot of people there, and the Auburn Police Department does a great job of covering the games, and they're super supportive. I think a lot of the men and women of the PD like to come and just be around our kiddos, but that does obviously come at a cost as well. Repairs and maintenance, trying to keep that at the bare minimum. That's our inspection and reconditioning of our football helmets, maybe some shoulder pads. We had a couple of tackling sleds that needed a little bit of repair from the Fix-It company, Sports Fix-It, the name. The next line is just extracurricular, and once again, trying to keep that as low as possible. But just as we're all experiencing, every one of those supplies has gone up over the last 8 to 10 months. Those are just trying to keep uniforms at a 5-year cycle, trying to keep game balls, extending them out or as long as they're usable. We're a year away from being at our own baseball softball field, which is exciting. But if you've ever been to a baseball game at Central Maine Community College, we lose a lot of baseballs behind the back screen as our coach puts 2 or 3 guys back there to try to get them, but they go down into so just another expense that we do our best we can, but trying to keep that number as low as possible. And then equipment and athletics, always looking to try to make sure that we're protecting our spectators, the vehicles, and trying to get something of a on-turf netting system, not only for our spectators, but also that we could, in the spring, potentially try to run a lacrosse practice and a track practice at the same time. The next time you drive by the facility, you'll see our kids are out there high jumping, and if we were running a lacrosse practice at the same time, they'd actually be shooting right at those kids. So just trying to get some netting and some protection so to keep those kiddos and coaches safe.
Todd, before you go on, I think we have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Todd, is the repair and maintenance 55,000 or 5,500?
Should be 5,500. Ooh. I
Nice
told you
save,
I'm
nice
still
save.
learning in the technology.
No,
piece.
your tan is impressive.
Sorry. Thank you.
Fix that.
No, we're going to remove that 0, aren't we? Thank you.
Yes.
We already caught it over here.
The dues and fees line, this is another area that we've really tried to be creative and help our neighbors across the bridge, but one of the things of combining and co-oping with Lewiston this year in swimming we were able to keep our rental fee over at the Lewiston Y to a minimum. But you see that all of those facilities, our ice hockey, the Y, the indoor track practices, all of those come at a cost. And we have great partners in our community. Fox Ridge, when I tell people we only pay $1,500 to golf there for 10 weeks, 16 kids, people kind of say, "What? That's a steal." So we really do have some great partnerships in our community, and they really support us. The student dues, that's handled by the MPA, and that's all based on our enrollment. And fortunately, our enrollment's going up, but that does come at a cost for those dues as well. And then the entry fees, those are just those required fees. For instance, our alpine ski team, there's that's one of the events that the MPA actually loses money on, doesn't make money, so there is a $375 fee for both of our teams, and then you times that times giant slalom and slalom, boys and girls. Those fees add up pretty quickly. Student recognition, I wish we could do more here, because like I told you, we had a tremendous winter and we had a lot of success, but we really work hard to keep all of those recognitions to a minimum. We've removed sending out, we don't send out art certificates anymore. We're doing those all in-house through the help of Stephanie Weber and technology and Marilyn Beauplant in our office. We're making all of our own certificates at a huge savings. So things that we try to keep at a minimum there. And then, as I mentioned before, one of the more significant changes is that the varsity wrestling is at the end of their 2-year self-funding and are in that cycle to be evaluated for the budget development.
I think we have one question.
Hi. I just have a question on the swimming. Since our team is comprised of different schools, do they help pay for that, or is this all the $5,000? Is that what it costs and we're paying for the whole thing? So
That's our rental fee. The other areas, Ms. Hart, where we found some cost savings is MSAD 52, which is Levitt, is providing all of our transportation to our away meets. So that's been a huge savings there. And now that we probably couldn't find an Auburn driver to get us to the meets, we'd have to contract it out. So that's been the savings there. We were actually creative with Lewiston. The Lewiston School Department paid for the varsity swim stipend, which was a significant number, and we paid for the 2 assistants, which was a much lower number. So there was a cost savings there. And then our other partners with Poland and St. Dom's, they took care of all of the swim officials.
You're sharing the cost.
We're all sharing the cost.
This is our portion.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Todd, explain the varsity wrestling. You said it would be evaluated prior to fiscal year '26. Have you evaluated it, or?
Yeah, so we've constantly evaluated that after year 1 and now into year 2. And in the preliminary budget meeting, Dr. Doris and I spoke about it may be something for the policy committee to take a look at, that the wording in that policy and the timeline in preparation for the budget don't necessarily line up. We really should have had that evaluation year 1 or 18 months in, because it doesn't allow time to thoroughly look at and say it's something we want to move forward in the budget cycle.
So the 1,600 that's reflected there,
that would be moving forward for 25, 26, and that would cover roughly 3 home wrestling matches, officials, timers, scorekeepers, scoreboard operators, assuming, because all of that is being now handled by the Auburn Wrestling Club. So that's going to be an additional 1,628 moving forward.
okay.
But, yeah, go ahead.
So, okay, so it doesn't coincide with the schedule, but we're keeping wrestling.
That would be I would highly recommend that we keep wrestling. It was one of our not only most successful programs, but one of our most popular. I think we had at one point 34 or 35 participants, one of the biggest teams in the state.
Okay, good. I just didn't want, I didn't want to lose it just because of
Right.
it wasn't coinciding with the schedule.
Right.
But it
I
is
agree.
listed under the stipends and the supply, I mean, it is listed
Yes.
under the athletic budget
Yes.
for this
For
budget
25,
cycle.
26,
Yeah,
the wrestling is included in our budget.
Okay.
Where it's been funded through the Auburn Wrestling Club.
Right.
It would be my recommendation that we would take it over into our budget.
yeah. Okay.
Sorry for that confusion.
Oh, sorry, Quinn.
No worries. I have a couple of questions from the big spreadsheet page, and again, I emphasize I did math team and I know nothing. I'm looking at, in terms of the stipend fees, I'm just trying to understand why something like football is so much larger. Is that reflecting there being multiple coaches for that, or?
Yes. So football would have a total of 6 coaches, one varsity and 3 assistants, and then a head first team coach and an assistant. So there would be 6 stipends there. And you'll see a similar, not quite as significant as with outdoor track. That's 6 stipends that make up that 19,946.
And the basketball teams, I'm assuming there's a reason we pay the boys' basketball stipend is higher than the girls'.
Yes, the boys' stipend is three stipends, and that's based on participation level where we have a first team. So we have a varsity, a JV, and a first team on the boys' side, whereas our girls' participation numbers haven't been quite as high, and we only sponsor a varsity and a JV.
And the Nordic ski, what is that, and why does it cost us nothing?
Nordic ski is it's a wonderful program. Unfortunately, 3 or 4 years ago, we lost our middle school Nordic ski coach, and unfortunately our numbers have dwindled since then. So we had 4 student athletes participate in Nordic skiing this year, and once again we have a great partnership with MSAD 52. Dustin Williamson, the coach out there, takes all of our kiddos and basically does it for free.
So it's there because we have kids in it that ski for EL.
Yeah.
Jay?
Hi, thank you. I was just curious, how are these stipends determined? Are they negotiated on within the contract?
Yes, it's all through the teacher's contract, and it's currently being negotiated right now.
Okay, and so just so I understand correctly, these stipends amounts are just totals from all of that one sport?
Correct.
Okay, very good, thank you. And then I'm noticing that our, the number of female girl athletes are lower than the boys, and I was just curious what we're doing to maybe recruit more or encourage more girl participation.
Yeah, unfortunately it's a nationwide trend. If if listening to at the national level and the state level, there's a couple of different programs, and we're actually bringing in some guest speakers. They're actually associated with the Air Force, but it's designed specifically for female student athletes and leadership. We're going to have them come in next week, and it's just really encouraging those kiddos to get involved. And one of the things we have done in the last couple of years is we brought on the varsity volleyball, which is specifically for our female student athletes. And being a field hockey dad, I was a little concerned that it might dip into those numbers of our field hockey players, but it really hasn't. They've created a nice niche, and Christy Keep at the middle school has really done a great job promoting that through the physical education program. So just trying to do that, I think you're going to see the numbers go up a little bit, both boys and girls now with our tennis courts back, and we'll start really pumping up our tennis program and our physical education program. So hopefully that's something that will help. But if anybody has any suggestions on how we can get female athletics, I'm all ears.
So I was wondering, you're having these people come to talk to the high school. How about people talking to elementary students or middle school students? Because studies have shown that girls think they're powerful when they're little, and then they realize as they get older, things change. And so I'm wondering if we can get them when they're younger and make them realize that they're just as powerful as when they get older.
Absolutely, great idea.
To speak to that, I know that for years I was trying to get a youth girls lacrosse club going on and couldn't get the enrollment. My daughter played with the boys for a while. And now there's a feeder program here in Auburn Rec, and the girls are really excited. So having those accessible, like feeder programs, as we call them, which is, we have those for Nordic and for swim. But seeing that, the girls, especially in lacrosse, we're seeing a huge increase. And there are girls coming onto the team that have never played before. And they're really feeling it's a good sport for them anyway. And so the little kids are where we need to find that, and like working collaboratively with the city.
Great idea.
Am I remembering correctly, does one of the elementary schools have a Girls on the Run program? Was there a presentation about that at some point?
Which one?
I think it's Park Avenue right now.
Adam?
Thanks. I just had two questions, Todd. First one is about hockey, and in obviously the right column of the per pupil costs, as I think you would always expect, hockey is going to be highest per pupil because it ain't cheap to make ice. But my question is not about that. It's about what we pay for ice time. Is what we're paying ourselves, what we're paying Norway, is that market rate? Are we getting a little deal? What would another school pay for that ice time?
I don't believe we're getting a deal. However, I think Norway Savings Bank is as competitive per hour in the area.
Great. I was just curious, as we look at that expense item on our school budget, is that per pupil cost the real reflection of the cost, or are we getting a deal? So that clears that up. And my second question was, it's not really budget related, but could you just educate us a little bit on the role of the booster clubs and what they do to help our budget? Because I'm sure they do a lot.
Yes. Thank you. Because one of my notes here was and I try every time to thank the Edward Little Grandstand. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I think I'm blowing sunshine at them, but they are the best booster group in the state. It's a group of 10 to 12 to 15 community members that have had students go through the building. We're always trying to encourage new membership, but I told the coaches last week at our coaches meeting, the grandstand has never said no. I've never heard them say, no, we can't support this. They might say, we can't give you the whole chunk of change, but we can give you something. And if any of you know Scott Whalen, he's out there asking coaches, what do you need? What do you want? His walking group was up there tonight, and he says, hey, what do you think about getting a nice building? Because we've got a storage shed container down there for our mats. And he's always thinking about what's next. And the material things are great, but one of the other great things they do is you're going to hear him at the end of the year, and they're going to give thousands of dollars away in scholarships to our graduating seniors. And every time I tell, hey, we got a chance to have the state field hockey championships to raise some money. Yep, we're in. They go over and work at the MPA Class B track at Bates. There's not an Edward Little student in sight, but it's an opportunity for them to make money for us. So they're fantastic, and whether it's lacrosse helmets we need, whether it's new uniforms, storage buildings, whatever we need, they're very helpful. Thank you.
Pat?
The price per pupil for the girls' hockey is probably the highest one on the page. Can you explain again why that's so high?
Yeah, well, hockey is expensive by nature, and why that looks as high as it is, and it comes in cycles, but you see that we had 6 Edward Little female ice hockey players. Now, I think next year we're going to be up closer to double digits on our side, so that number is going to come down a little bit. But it's basically just, where the boys' number is a very high number as far as dollars spent, but we also have 26 kids in the program, so that the cost per pupil number goes down significantly. So once again, if we can recruit some female skaters, we can get that number lower.
So the other schools that are participating, they pay about the same amount?
They end up paying about the same amount, and once again, we share the stipends with them. Poland provides a stipend for us. SAD 52, they provide the busing for us. So, and then we cover. We divide the games up on which school covers. So the athletic training fees, whoever's covering the game, that school will cover the athletic training fees, the officials' fees. So we each try to do our part.
So if you added the number of girls on the whole team, even though they're not all our students, it would make it more in line with...
Absolutely. We were closer to 18 or 19 total girls in the hockey program, and the Gladiators are a very successful organization, and I wish Mr. Latouche was here because he could tell you how many girls were coming up next year, what position they played, what number they wore on their jersey. But he tells me that we are going to have an influx of female skaters in the next 2 years.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll stop interrupting. You can keep going if you want.
I think I've bored you enough.
Or is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Amanda mentioned me taking over, but I'm already confused with these numbers, so.
Anyone else have any other questions for Todd? No? Okay. Okay.
I know that part of the finance committee, we talked about a building for the maintenance equipment. Do you have enough room to maintain all of the equipment for the sports? And, because I know that in the past, with the old school, we were unable to, keep, like, some of the equipment, we weren't able to keep it safe and keep it functioning.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if we have enough room now with this, or if that's something that we need to look into.
No, and as I mentioned, I think one of the reasons Mr. Whalen asked about the current project of the tiny house, because it's a pretty good sized shed of keeping mats out of the rain, keeping mats inside during the winter months. But yeah, the storage, the lack of storage down at the facility is certainly a concern, and only probably going to get a little bit more extreme once we get baseball and softball online, as trying to make space for all of their equipment as well. But I don't think I've ever worked in a school district where we've had enough storage. So, but a little bit more would be great.
Just to jump in, Scott Holland and the baseball and softball coaches and myself have been having some conversations of what can be in the storage of the dugouts and what would be needed in the areas in between the fields, of what additional space needs to happen there, as well as Scott and I have had conversations of what would be part of another conversation of the storage unit and what would that look like, as well as Todd and the coaches and Scott and myself have had lots of exploratory conversations of what are we doing to manage what's inside the building, because some of those things are seasonal dependent. So when they're not out at the fields, where are they located? And so we work with maintenance in terms of moving some pieces back and forth. So even with the new building as well as the old building, it's kind of a game of dominoes of season to season and what rotates in and what rotates out.
I guess my concern is I just want to make sure that the equipment that we have, we're able to take good care of it. It's just fiscally responsible, but also for the safety of the kids. So I just wanted to make sure, like, if that was something that we needed to look into as far as the budget.
Yeah, it's a great point because specific to the track and field mats, when you get into a pole vault landing system and the high jump landing system, they need to be protected from the elements, and that's a big ticket item, so it's a great point.
I think we're good.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And now Ms. Kuchar will come to the mic, and she will be reviewing cost centers 6 through 10 tonight.
I'll be with you for the remainder of tonight's budget presentation. Let me get to my, all right. So I'll begin with cost center 6. This is a school department system administration. We did budget for a 3% increase for all staff that are not in the collective bargaining agreement. Last year, my predecessor, Mark Conrad, would have come to you for an increase in this cost center for our software transition. That was a $187,000 purchase. I have kept some of that in next year's budget because we go live July 1, so we still have some work to do after July 1, but the majority of the decrease that you see in this cost center is from the software transition being most of the way done once we get to June 30. So that accounts for a fairly large decrease. That kind of brings us back to where we were 2 years ago. That's what you'll see there. Cost center 7, which is school administration. This is our building principals, our athletic director, let's see. No, not the athletic director, I'm so sorry. Building administrators and their admin assistants as well. So you're seeing 90% of the increase in this is the salary and the health insurance specifically. The other 10% is the retirement that's automatically calculated in there. Medicare, it's a percent of the salary. So when you see a salary increase, you see taxes increase as well. So you're pretty much seeing a 5.6% increase that includes the health insurance and the salary and benefits there. In transportation, we see a $92,000 increase total from FY25 to 26. $83,000 is what we're seeing in health insurance increases in this cost center. We have a number of bus drivers and aides and van drivers who are taking advantage of the health insurance available to them with their bargaining unit now. We also were able to add in the bus rate software. This is an exciting opportunity. So my children's school department started using this January 1, and there's an app available to parents. This software is intended to create bus runs that are more efficient, that are, it allows like students and parents to see what time the bus will show up at their stop. It's a really great program, and we're excited to get going with that this summer as long as this all processes and gets approved to go through. So technically speaking, when I see an increase of $83,000 in health insurance, I know there's an increase in salary and benefits, and we've added the software in there. We've managed to cut in other places in this cost center. So kudos to our director for really taking a lot of time to make sure we could afford that software. Go ahead.
This bus rate software, I thought we already purchased this software and that we were trying to put it in and there was issues because...
So BusRate is a newer software. Apparently a few years ago there was TransFinder. It was actually purchased by the state reimbursed school departments to use that specific software. We did not ever get that up and running. That was a few years ago, I think before my time. But it actually didn't cost the district anything because that was what the Department of Education had a contract with. What they're saying now is rather than having a contract with a specific software company, the word from the DOE is that they're reimbursing us technically in the ED 279. So it's where they're going to take into account that we've now purchased a software, and we're supposed to see perhaps a slight increase the following year because of it in our ED 279. No one's seen that yet. This is a fairly new change, but they don't have a contract with a specific vendor anymore. So we chose Bus Right. It really does seem like a very popular and exciting opportunity. So, thank you. Any other, yeah.
I'm just noticing we have a lot of vacant bus driver positions. Are we concerned about that?
We do have, I think it's, do you remember how many bus driver openings?
I think we were sitting
7.
at 7 openings. We currently have 4 in training at this exact moment in time.
And we have budgeted for all of the positions and runs that the director sees us needing in future years. So hopefully we can fill them. It's always kind of a tough thing to do because it takes at least 2 months, I think, to go through the training. So unless someone comes from another school department and has already been a bus driver, we're usually waiting a couple months, and they're in as a van driver while they're training to be a bus driver. So any other questions on cost centers 6, 7, or 8? I should have stopped and asked. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Adam.
good.
One quick question on the savings that we're hoping for with that new software, and where they'd present themselves. So if there were fuel savings, for example, what cost center is fuel in? Is that a
Fuel's
city-
in cost center 8.
in cost center 8?
Yes.
And then also, with more efficient bus routes, are we hoping that it might help some of those labor positions over time, maybe decrease overtime or contracting third parties? I'm not asking for specific numbers, but what are some of the bullet point hopes, I guess?
So I know that our student body numbers are up. I also know that, we're in the facilities committee, we're looking at, how our district is set up and everything. So I really don't think we can look anywhere in the future at cutting back on positions, not that we'll add. But when a bus driver calls out sick, or perhaps they put in for paid time off ahead of time, this program can help us to reroute that so that we don't necessarily have to cancel a trip every time. That's a big piece that we won't have to, at 5 o'clock in the morning, let parents know they have to find a way for their children to get to school. I think that's more what I meant by the efficiency of, when we're down a person. A number of times our transportation director has been driving a bus on a daily basis. So that might help him to be in the office and be available for the drivers should there be an emergency or something like that.
So benefits and service as much,
Yes,
just as much as cost
definitely.
savings, which
Yep.
is still a benefit. Yep, great.
Thank you.
I just have one question. I was looking at the salaries and benefits on the cost center 8. One person is listed twice. Is that normal, or is that supposed to be? I don't want to say the person's name.
My binder's over there. Sorry. Let's check. Normally, someone's only listed twice if they're shared, and I don't recall anyone in cost center 8 being shared. Oh, I know who
towards
you're
the
talking about.
bottom.
She is part-time part-time special ed transportation, part-time general ed special transportation. It's Rita. I think I know who you're talking about. I did
Yeah.
see that this morning.
So that's.
So you're
okay.
right. That is
Okay.
accurate. She also does the interoffice mail delivery during the day too. So that's 2 different accounts. Thank you. But if you see that anywhere, please feel free to let Sue or Dr. Dorser I know, because if it is an error, we want to take care of that in the spreadsheet. So, and check, of course, ADS to make sure that's not in there twice. So, thank you.
Am I understanding this correctly? Do we have a full-time bus mechanic?
We do have a full-time bus mechanic, and believe it or not, that has really saved us on purchase services a lot. It doesn't save us on supplies because he's purchasing the supplies to fix up our buses. We do still pay for like registrations and then inspections for the buses. Our mechanic doesn't do that at this time. But, yeah. Okay.
Do we keep all of our buses in a central location? I know some districts, the drivers keep them at home.
The buses? No, they're parked at 33 Industry Avenue, yep. So I'm going to move on to Cost Center 9, Facilities Maintenance. So looking at the FY26 MOU with the city, it really is comprised of two parts. The MOU comes from salaries or pieces of salaries of city employees that we use their services for. And then the majority of the budget is utilities, repair and maintenance, and just budgeting the day-to-day needs in the school buildings. So next year, the total budget with the city is $4.1 million. The remainder of Cost Center 9, the 1.3 million still in next year's budget is debt service. That's specific to capital improvement bonds, the CIP bonds. So even though the MOU with the city is $275,000 increase, we actually see a decrease of $100,000 in our debt service. So this cost center in total is not up to 75, it's up just under 200,000. And that really is specific to, I'll get on the next slide what the specifics are here. So our utilities, this was determined by the facilities operations coordinator, the city's facilities operations coordinator, and he does not see a significant increase from this year for utilities. Now that's made up of natural gas, electric, water, sewer, all of those things. The debt service, as I mentioned, is down that $111,000 in this cost center. Debt service is in two different cost centers, so this particular one is just over $100,000. Cleaning and supplies and purchase services is up $40,000, and the overall MOU, now this is made up of the salaries and benefits that we share with the city, it is up $64,000, and $50,000 of that is we are sharing the facilities operations coordinator 50%. He's actually at the high school full-time. That's where his office is. He's helped coordinate the geothermal tasks that have been starting up, and he's getting to know our new Fairview boiler. So really, he is used 50% by the school department. We have just as many buildings and needs as the city. So that's why you see a large increase in this, specifically the MOU, is increase in salary and benefits for the people we were already sharing, plus that new half position that we're including in our budget. Actually, I think, so this is still Cost Center 9, the capital improvement project request. Does anyone have any questions on the MOU or maintenance with the city before I move on? Go ahead.
Why not? Why not ask another question? I guess my only question is, do you have any other anticipations for how that MOU might change or become inflated over the next 2 to 5 years? Are there any inflection points that you see coming between us and the city that may cost us something? Or are we there? Is it ironed out and just ready to move forward?
I mean, we're always making things better, but I don't see there being any large increases like this year where we took on that half position. I don't see that really happening next year, at least. We really did talk about custodial staff, maintenance. We're working on being a little more efficient with our maintenance staff because we were sharing one person with another department of the school, so we're going to work on that, and that way that person's not shared and they're more available for specifically the maintenance of our buildings. So I don't think so. We do meet from time to time and try to make sure that all of our processes are in place and are working well. So I don't see there being a huge increase. Okay. All right, so the request for the FY26 capital improvement project. We have two projects that we have that we're very eager to get moving on. One of them is the ventilation in the East Auburn Community School. This has been a concern for a number of years. We actually had hoped to apply for an SRRF loan last year, but it turned out we were not able to because we didn't qualify under the new state regulations. So we are moving forward with this request for the FY26 capital improvement bond. We would not be able to actually address this issue this coming school year. It would be the following summer, so summer of '26. And then I know Pam mentioned the storage building that we talked about in the Finance Committee. This was just me giving the Finance Committee a heads up about the second project that we're requesting in the $1 million capital improvement bond. This is to store maintenance equipment. So I'm going to start with the East Auburn ventilation upgrade. I have some pictures up here that were shared by one of our subcontractors. Currently, the ductwork, if you look at the picture on the top right, the ducts for the ventilation in the community school are those older half-height, almost like countertops. The ventilation is at the top of the counter, and part of this project, part of the budget for this project, is to redo the ductwork so that it's coming in from above and it's not to be blocked. It's going to expand through the rooms better. The picture on the bottom left is in the basement. There is the potential for us to upgrade a couple of items in the basement. That's not necessarily something we have to do. That's where we have some give, depending on where the quote comes in for this, if we do move forward with it. The other piece is that tiny picture on the bottom right. That's the where the rooftop is flat, and they're looking to fix that so that it doesn't leak or have any concerns with the snow removal. So there's a few little pieces in that project, but overall we're looking to really fix up the ventilation so that it works better for our students and our staff, and then to take a look at the roofs and make sure that we're not having any issues with our flat roofs. And then the other project, this building is not from maintenance. I was looking for visuals. Do know that this is a picture of a cold storage building, which is exactly what the Public Works Department is looking for at Edward Little High School, but this isn't necessarily what it's going to look like. Just disclaimer. But we did recently give permission for one of our older capital improvement bonds to purchase a tractor for field maintenance. There's a lot of new fields at the high school. We're thinking that they're going to be storing one of those tractors at the high school because it's used primarily there, as well as we expect other maintenance equipment to be needed primarily at the high school. So by storing it right on the campus, it will save time. If it's a truck with a plow, it's going to save time in that snowstorm to get started. So that is the other $200,000 project. We have a quote on concrete being laid. We have a quote on the actual storage building. And then there's a little bit of money left over for the electrical work that will need to be done. There's no insulation or anything included. It's very bare bones, but they do need electrical in there to get around to see. So. Are there any questions on the request there? Okay. All right, so my last cost center, debt service. This is actually, it's really set in stone the way that this works because this is based on votes that have already gone to the community in years past. So this year we're seeing the Park Avenue state bond expire. So we pay it off this fiscal year, which is very exciting. So you can see, this coming fiscal year, I said that wrong. In FY26, we will pay it off. So in FY27 and 28, you'll see $0 for that. So when you look at the bottom for the change from the prior year, you see a big jump from 26 to 27, and that is specifically because of the Park Avenue bond no longer being paid. The Edward Little High School bond will slowly get less. The principal doesn't really adjust, but the interest does by, I think it's about $200,000 each year. It goes down. So when we see a decrease of $290,000 next year, it's specifically in the state-approved bonds. And the next slide just shows the local share. So the numbers on the previous slide, we actually do receive from the ED 279 funds back for some of those amounts from the state. These numbers here comes 100% from the taxpayers. So the totals of this year, 1.1 million, and then next year it's still 1,123,000 and stuff, and so on. That's specifically the local share. And we do see it go down a little bit each year because of interest. And the big jump, of course, when Park Avenue is done. So,
Can I just ask you to explain what an 8279, you keep referencing that, but I'm not sure what that means.
You know, I'm going to spend more time on it next time when we have revenue, but I'll just briefly explain. It is the state subsidy, the amount of money that the state gives our school department in great detail. And so part of that detail is when we went to the state and requested this bond for, say, the high school, the state agreed to pay a certain amount based on however many square feet per student, per pupil. Any square feet or any additional things, like say the Performing Arts Center, if we paid for maybe additional lighting or seating, actually seating is definitely one of the things, that had to come from the local share, meaning the taxpayers. And so that's this slide, this last slide here, is specifically those add-on items that the state doesn't fund. And the ED 279, basically every year they look at the same amortization schedule that I look at, and they say, yep, we are covering this amount because that's what was agreed on when you brought the request to us.
And these items, these extra items that the local share is local share only, these were things that were put out for a vote and the community voted for, right?
They voted for the entire project as a whole, and it was, I believe, a separate piece of the vote when we had the local share because it was a different percent getting paid back. We pay, I believe, 12% of the state bond back, the state-approved piece, versus the 100% of the additional.
The ED 279, though, is the full amount of the state subsidy that we get from the DOE
Correct.
for our entire school budget. So it's the
Yes.
entire state, amount that is given to us based on all of the different factors, the number of students that we have, the percentage of MLL students. I'm sure I'm going to forget something, but so it's all of those factors, the percent of
Yes.
disadvantaged and low-income students.
Special services.
Yep, special
yeah.
services. So all of that gets factored into and that's the full amount that subsidizes our school budget every year.
And we do have additional information next week when we talk about revenue about that. But yep, it explains the entire state subsidy and this debt service being just a small piece of it. Any other questions on Cost Center 10? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, get back to my right screen here. Okay, thank you all. Moving on to our school committee student representatives report. Connor and Calvin.
Thank you. Last week on Thursday and Friday, 103 students went up to Bangor, Maine for Skills USA. For those of you who are not familiar with Skills USA, they are a national nonprofit organization that empowers students to become skilled professionals, career-ready leaders, and responsible community members through career and technical education. LRTC took home 14 gold medals, 28 silver medals, and 8 bronze medals. The 14 gold medalists will be going to Atlanta, Georgia at the end of June to compete in their national competitions. I would also like to note that Mr. Callahan took home the Cornerstone Award. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. And I think I would like to point out that Connor actually came in third in the competition that he worked in. Okay, thank you. Dr. Doris, Superintendent's report.
I do not have a report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do not have a chairperson's report tonight. City Council update, Adam.
Brief update, if anybody watched the meeting on Monday, we had the beginning of our budget deliberations. I won't get into too much detail. It's all there. I don't know if Phil's posted it to our website yet, but I can send out, if anybody needs any information or follow-up, please email me and I can explain anything that was added to the public record on Monday. One thing I did specifically want to address, I guess just on our radar, is the City Council did pass a first reading of a revised joint purchasing policy. I see Dr. Doris nodding, but I believe that is something that will come across our table at some point. So we'll address that when it comes our way. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Adam? All right. Moving on to our standing committees and our reports and minutes. So we have Finance Subcommittee minutes attached. Adam or Amanda, do you want to give a quick summary? Some of this we're going to discuss later under new business, but maybe some of the things that quick over.
Got to pull up the
Okay.
minutes here. Man, if you want to give it a shot. Well.
Honestly, the majority of the conversation was about the vote that we have coming up,
Yeah.
so we can get
Yeah.
to that after.
Probably the only other thing to note is that the architect engineer of record, we did discuss that all the RFPs have been collected. Amanda and Scott are going over those proposals, and the next step will be to schedule interviews with the candidates, which are currently scheduled on April 2nd with the Finance Committee. I think that's really the most of it, because the rest of it, we've already just talked about. The FY26 CIP bond and the FY21 CIP bond is on our new business. Okay, policy meeting that was scheduled for yesterday got postponed, so that will be rescheduled for next month, I believe. And then the facilities subcommittee minutes are linked. Scott, do you want to give us a quick overview of that?
We spent the majority of the time talking about some of the upcoming things in terms of looking at population density and things like that, but the CIP and the RFP coming, request for proposal for the architect and engineer of records, the capital improvement plan. But the majority of the conversation centered around the next steps on the moving forward with the plan of the inclusion of sixth grade to the middle school, and developing a memo to develop an ad hoc committee to bring in stakeholders and do some work in regards to what that overall plan would look like, as well as our next steps to bring forth to the entire school committee in terms of developing some commitments on that inclusion plan.
Great, thank you. Okay, so no old business tonight, so moving on to our new business. I will entertain a motion to approve the updated budgets for the FY21 CIP bonds to include 2 additional projects, the Park Avenue slide replacement and elementary classroom furniture. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pam, do I have a second?
Second.
Quinn? Okay, so quick discussion around, so we have a CIP bond memo, as well as a bond budget. Amanda, do you want to give us a quick overview of this?
Sure. The slides at Park Avenue was actually intended to be part of the upgrades in the playgrounds a couple years ago. There were issues with the slides where it was not safe. They actually had to remove them, and it's been blocked by plywood for a couple of years. It did get missed. This was completely in error. So we're hoping to replace 2 slides at the Park Avenue playground, take out the plywood. And then the classroom furniture, we've had requests from 2 elementary school principals for certain furniture, and the hope is to purchase a little extra so that when other needs come up, we can replace without having to spend from the regular budget. So that's where that budget item came from.
And so those are both at a cost. The Park Ave slide replacement is estimated at about $18,000, and the elementary classroom furniture is estimated right around $32,000, and that would use the remaining balance of this 21 CIP bond. Do we have any questions or discussion on this?
I guess just a comment for the public, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, but this is the 2021 CIP bond. There was unallocated funds. I believe 2 or 3 meetings ago, we already reallocated certain funds to the tractor and maybe another item. So this is just the remaining unallocated funds of a previous CIP bond.
Yeah. Okay. So no other questions or discussion? Okay. So all those in favor, okay. Sorry, I thought I saw someone put their hand up. All those in favor of approving the updated budgets for the FY21 CIP bonds to include the Park Ave slide replacement and the elementary classroom furniture. All those in favor? Motion carries. We have our list of our upcoming meetings. Our next regular school committee budget meeting is next Wednesday, the 26th. And do I have any future agenda items or requests for information? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Pam and Pat, all those in favor? We are adjourned at 7 o'clock on the dot. Thank you, everyone, and good night.